Hello you guys, welcome back to the channel, another falconry episode. I'm actually in a reptile room talking to you guys about falconry even, and that is because it hasn't stopped raining all day. I've been to a school all morning, it hasn't stopped raining. Literally, I've just seen Noah, he sailed down the street only 10 minutes ago. I dread to think what the rivers are like. It's one of those days, July, pouring. I've been at home and all I've done is sort stuff out in the reptile room, build some shelving units for the storage at home. I'm going to go and check on the birds later tonight and then back on it all weekend, so I hope it does stop raining. Lugger falcons in falconry in the UK. What are they? What's the point of them? I can tell you now, when I started falconry 35 years ago, they were the poor man's falcon. You've got your kestrel, people started with that kestrel, common kestrel, which is silly because they were lightweight, but they were cheap in the day. And then lugger falcons were probably by far the cheapest big falcon. I think thought of really as a bit of a poor man's falcon, a bit of a practice falcon. It's a big falcon, you can train it to allure, you can do all the handling, the hooding, everything else. Weren't renowned for being hunting birds. People did hunt a bit with them because of force. They couldn't afford anything else, couldn't get hold of anything else. Nowadays, unless you want to hunt or fly a lugger falcon, I guess what is the point? But there is a point. Hunting wise now, male peregrines, 2023, 2022, people have been given away. Breeders are giving away male peregrines. They're just left, right and centre. They have no value. They're a byproduct of breeding the big females, which can then produce hybrid peregrines and such like for the Arab market. But Tearsall peregrines have no financial value at all in the UK at the moment. So I guess if someone's going to give you a peregrine, yeah, why would you fly a lugger, I suppose? You know, times have changed as people have got better and better at breeding birds and so on. I think the lugger falcon, it's got a two-stage story now in the UK. If you really want to fly one and train one, they're now available. You can get hold of one if that's what you want. Really, I think they've become researched because of Project Lugger, and that means most falconry centres like ours, Icarus Falconry, we've now part of that project where many of the falconry centres in the UK have at least one lugger to fly for the public, for education and to discuss the plight of the lugger in the wild. Project Lugger is doing great work, and what it actually has done is pulled together those few people in the UK that still had lugger falcons and were even breeding them or not, and sort of pulled them into a breeding project. So probably more lugger falcons have been produced in the last 2 or 3 years in the UK than for the last 10, 20 years before that, in a way, just to provide an example of a lugger to be trained and flown for the public, for education, for conservation. So we're part of that project indeed. As an individual, I can tell you they make a different lure bird, incredibly fast. The name lugger, or their other name, not very often used nowadays, is lagger. Lagger or lugger, I don't know, to me, it just sounds like a blooming slow hulk of a bird that's going to lull up its way around and be absolutely useless. And they did have a bit of reputation for being quite a second-rate slow, but they're not. As a lure bird for sure, ours at Icarus Falconry, trained and flown by Joe Askew, it's a machine, and it's got better and better as it's grown up, if you like, mentally over the last couple of years. That bird, when it's windy as well, whoa, that thing is dynamite. It flies well, it ranges, it flies with style. A bit like a lanner, they're relatively lightweight for the size of their tail and wing, so they've got a bit of buoyancy about them. I'm going to say luggers don't seem to be as buoyant as lanners. They've definitely got a bit more punch to them in their speed. Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think. I'm going to say the female's flying around 1 pound 6 ounces, but just take that as a guide. But you compare it to wingspan to a peregrine, you'd have several ounces on a peregrine with the same wingspan. So they are long-winged and long-tailed, very much like a lanner. Also often thought of really as a bit like a lanner, but yeah, they're very different birds. Lugger falcons probably aren't quite as calm and chilled. They've got attitude. I don't mean they've got attitude that they're nasty, but they'll even a parent reared one will shout its displeasure at you. They can be, I think, in the few that I've personally seen, they can be a little hood shy. Perfectly good to hood, but they can be a little hood shy sometimes, a little bit more, maybe like a Harris hawk, where they kind of don't want to miss out. And in a way, they remind me of a long-winged Harris hawk in they're quite clever birds. They like to see what's going on. And yeah, they will often sort of take a little bit of tut to having the hood put on. They're fine when they're hooded. Almost like they really don't want to miss out on what's going on and miss out on an opportunity of food. They're very greedy birds, they're good eaters, and that makes them quite easy to train because they've always got a good appetite, and anything, a dog or anything with a good appetite is often easy to train because it's easy to bribe, isn't it? Beautiful birds. Again, they might not be as stunning as a peregrine, that icon, but they're good looking birds, and I actually like them in their immature plumage and in their older plumage. Hunting, I think it'd be nice to see some longwingers in the UK take up the lugger again and give it, those guys that are good at flying longwings and have got the ground, to see what it's capable of, to have a revisit hunting with lugger falcons, not because they're cheap and available like the olden days, but because you've got some skill and you just want to try something different. They're very capable, fast birds, and yet in the wild, they're known to take a lot of ground game. And by that, I mean lizards, spiny tail lizards, something that's abundant. So as I often say to people, our guests at work at Icarus or Raptor Exotics, most predators, I say, what do they eat? They tend to eat what they can overpower easily that's most abundant where they live. You know, barn owls here eat a lot of voles and shrews, but they don't just eat voles and shrews in other parts of the world. Golden eagles on some of the Greek islands are known for eating tortoises because they're easy to catch, drop them from a height, smash them on a rock, and they're abundant. Just because you're a big, powerful predator doesn't mean you go for big, powerful prey just to look cool. You tend to eat what's the most easiest and abundant food for you to get. Lugger falcons take a lot of lizards off the ground. Spiny tail lizards in the arid climate where they come from, they're abundant and available. And to be honest, they can run fast, so I guess that speed, that straight line speed that the lugger has as well, helps them catch that food. But they'll eat all manner of game. So the hunting side, I'd say, also poor man's choice in the olden days, and nowadays left behind in the wake of free peregrines and other birds that have become incredibly cheap due to captive breeding. Now, our first lugger falcon from the project came to us at just over a year old, parent reared, but trained very initially, sort of early manning, and then apparently just sat on a block in someone's garden for a year. And just like every falcon I've ever flown that's never been flown ever, she could never get fitness. Jo flew that bird every single day, and to start with, she couldn't fly 50 yards in a straight line. Seriously, she just couldn't do it. She just landed, literally just ran out of steam, ran out of muscle power. And then she went on to be a classic sort of grass cutter, half a dozen passes, puffed out, and it doesn't matter how much you push them. A bird that's flown hard from its first season will always retain fitness, even if it's not flown for a couple of years. It will always have built those muscles, and I mean muscles including your heart and their lungs, cardio and muscles of the physical form of the body. I find personally that a bird that's just sat tethered from hatching, if you like, as in it's never been up in the air, you can never, I've never been able to get a bird like that truly fit. Never anything like a bird that's flown well in its first season. She was a good bird. She did her stuff for the project, but from a flying point of view, very disappointing from Jo's point of view to fly, really. She actually went off back into the project, and then we got another one. Yeah, I sort of ordered parent reared, but we got what we could get, and she's an imprint that was imprinted by the breeder, and then we took her on at hard penned. To be honest, beautiful bird, lovely to work with, bomb proof. Would you want an imprint at home at your place? Probably not. It's likely to be very noisy if you've got neighbours, and it'll irritate you. But in a falconry centre setting, that's not a problem. And the side of the imprinting meant that you just got a totally bomb-proof, easy-going bird to work with in amongst the crowds or people on experience days and so on and so forth. If I was flying one for myself, it'd be parent-reared because I prefer parent-reared birds. But certainly for our job, imprinting is just fine. Now, these birds, you can keep them very well tethered, tethered in a mews at night, on a shelf perch, not a screen perch, on a shelf perch or similar. You can keep them out tethered. I like the high tall blocks, but obviously if a bird gets tangled on those, it is off the ground. So all your perches have problems, all of them. But I like to see them sort of 3 or 4 foot off the ground, so they feel more comfortable and you're not towering over the birds. Ours does well. Ours is actually nowadays free lofted. They do well free lofted. Just think about how you do the free lofting and look out for any feather wear. Certainly the wingtips of the falcons can be tipped easily in a free loft setup. So always modify and change to suit your bird. Feeding, good quality diet, of course. You know, don't just think it's some poor man's bird of the old days feeding nothing but Dale cockerels. All your birds, give them a good varied diet. Obtaining lugger falcons in the UK, if you're genuine, and you've got a bit about you and you know, you are a falconer, not a dabbler, I think you'd be able to find one and train one, because there's probably a little bit of a surplus now for those people that were sort of commissioned almost to breed them for the Project Lugger. So falconry centres like ours could have them. So they're out there now, they're being bred. But they did fall foul, a bit like the common buzzard when I was a lad, was a cheap starter bird. For those that wanted to fly a hawk, the buzzard itself, it was easily obtained, it was always available, it was incredibly cheap, and tough as old boots. So, you know, I guess a good training bird. The Harris hawk became an invention. Breeding Harris hawks became a thing. They breed really easily. So the common buzzard, you can't find one now captive bred in the UK. There are a few, but almost disappeared. People stopped breeding them. They had no value. The lucrative at the time Harris hawk was easier to breed and had more value. And that's how the lugger falcon kind of went in a way. It just fell by the wayside as people got better at breeding falcons. They bred falcons that were more purposeful, maybe more beautiful, had a higher value, but they are there again now. So yeah, the lugger falcon, is it for you? It's for you if you want to fly a lugger falcon. It's for you if you want to fly a really interesting lure bird that has a turn of speed and has agility. And it's for you if you really want to try hunting a different falcon maybe, and you just think, you know what, I'm not going to be a snob, I'm going to try and achieve something different, maybe a little bit like, maybe not this bad, but hunting falconry with an owl. If you want to fly an owl like I don't know, a great horned owl, that sort of size as a hunting bird, and they will hunt and they will take rabbits and they have got speed if they need it, or maybe hunting something bigger with a European eagle owl, you know, why would you? Because there's much easier ways to hunt that quarry with, much easier birds to work with, probably more enjoyable birds to work with. But there are people hunting with those owls very efficiently indeed. They've cracked the way of trading a bird off the kill, because owls can't see close up. Anyone knows what I'm talking about. Owls, the problem with hunting with owls is getting them off their kill. But why would you? Well, why would I fly a golden eagle? Because I want to fly a golden eagle. If you really want to try and fly an owl, fly an owl. Hunt with an owl. If you really want to try and hunt with a lugger falcon, something different, try that. Is there any need to? Of course there isn't. It's down to you. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this little waffle. Just a little bit about something that's disappeared from mainstream mindset, but a wonderful, beautiful bird. We're proud to have one at Icarus Falconry. Jo's done an incredibly good job training that bird, and she does wow the audience and wow our experienced day guests. And of course, the point of that bird and all the other ones at falconry centres is that conservation minded. Now, it's not, when you're just saying, listen to me, let me tell you about the plight of the lugger falcon, you're not just talking to people about some random falcon they've never heard of. You're getting them to click and actually think about conservation on a whole. It's getting that mindset, caring about the natural world, thinking about the natural world, and, you know, what we can do to help. And it's not all about rattling tins and giving money to help the giant panda or something. A lot of what I talk about is helping stuff in your garden or your school field. It all goes together. Like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. The next one is going to be, who knows? Wait and see. Subscribe, help me out, promote the channel as best you can. It really helps. See you soon.